Hello, hello. It's just past 1 o'clock here in Corvallis, Oregon. You're listening to KBVR Corvallis. Today, I've got a special interview with the band Friend of My Youth, who's playing in Salem tonight with Poshish Bear and Fear Dog in Salem, Oregon. Before we get started with the interview, we're going to play one off of their tape from 2014. Here's Future Perfect from, again, Friend of My Youth. You're listening to KBVR Corvallis. Again, that was Future Perfect off of the Friend of My Youth tape, the self-titled tape from back in 2014. We've got the band here in studio.
Hey.
At KBVR. Yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Donald.
Yeah, we've got...
Indiana.
My name's Spencer.
And Andy.
The Friend of My Youth is an excellent three-piece, a part of the community here. I've seen many of their shows, and I have enjoyed them very, very much. So thank you for coming into the studio today.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I already know this, but y'all are based out of Corvallis, but also Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. And on many of the show posters I've seen or the Facebook events I've seen from the band, it's sort of a self-titled like a long distance band. So Andy, you fly in from Santa Barbara, correct?
That is true.
And it's almost, you guys do shows pretty frequently still, and you're able to practice a lot. So for one, I'm just really impressed that y'all are able to do that. But how is it being this long distance band and making it work?
It's I mean, it's annoying, but like,
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that we practice a lot.
We practice once.
yeah, I mean, we've been playing the songs a long time. It's not ideal, I guess. Like it was, so we originally started when we all lived in Santa Barbara. Well, Spencer, so Tyler, our original bass player, and Andy. Am I close enough to the mic?
Yeah, you're
Is
good.
this great?
You're
All right,
good.
great.
This is good radio.
Yeah, we started all living in Santa Barbara, but we only did that for like 6 months. And that was easy because we had a really nice practice space and practiced once a week. And now we practice
Once
the day
every 3
before the
months or so.
show, usually. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly Andy. You're the one who has to fly. We haven't gone down to Santa Barbara again since we've been a band for like phase 2 of this band. So it's probably really annoying for you, Andy, to have to fly.
I mean, I don't know. I just get to show up and play, so that's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, the travel is interesting. I think it's unusual for this kind of band, but
Yeah.
you know, we've made it work.
Yeah, kudos to you for making the flights
Yeah.
back and forth. That's
Honestly,
awesome.
Andy probably goes to more shows here than like a lot of people who live here. So that's cool.
But I couldn't fill out the punch card. So,
No, you're
yeah.
really close though.
So Indiana and Andy, you're both from Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
But then Spencer came to Corvallis just a couple years ago, right?
I moved to Corvallis on July 25th, 2016.
And I've enjoyed every minute you've been here, Spencer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we convinced Spencer to move here.
I'm
Based-
also originally from Southern California, so I didn't know Indiana before I moved here to live in Indiana's house.
We just texted him after meeting him one time, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm graduating college. I will move here," which
Well-
is the main reason you moved to Corvallis.
You got connected because you were familiar with Indiana's record label, right?
Yes.
Yes.
When they were in Santa Barbara, it was like a local label, which I thought was cool, and I liked what they put out, so I just bought all of it.
He was like our best customer, so now
Super
that
fan.
he lives
He's our
here, we
best
don't
customer.
make any money.
Now he's our best friend.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Well, this self-titled tape, it came out on that record label, Secret
Yes,
Pennies.
it did.
And now it's based here in Corvallis. How has it been, well, one, running that record label, but also more so, you know, recording this tape 5 years ago and then coming into recording a new record?
Ooh.
How is it self-recording and the process of, you know, putting all these pieces together when, you know, the band itself isn't necessarily together in one place?
That was really hard. So yeah, we just kind of finished recording our first full length, which is 10 songs. Pretty recently. We kind of worked on it for like 5 months. We started. So yeah, I mean, that was harder. That was really hard because we had to schedule everything around, you know, because we started recording. Yeah, we recorded everything at our house. My partner, Nathan, recorded everything. I do Secret Pennies with him. So we recorded everything there, which was cool to be able to do. But yeah, we started with drums. Basically, I know that we started September 19th because on September 18th, we played a show with Alien Boy and Flexing. And yeah, so Andy flew up for that show, and then we based our recording around that. So he flew up here, played the show, and then we spent like 4 days recording drums. And then, yeah, we put the rest together, and then Andy had to fly up again in November to do backing vocals and stuff. So that was tricky, but we pulled it off, I guess. I guess we'll see.
The cool thing about recording, you know, in your house is that you're not really on a tight like time schedule. You can take your time, but on the other hand, you know, I flew up here for a week, so it had to get done at some point during that week, at least the parts that I was doing. So that was a little bit stressful at first.
There's some moments.
Yeah, but there are always some moments.
Yeah. No, recording sucks. I hate recording.
But you're all done now, right?
Yes, we are done.
we're
We're
done.
so done. We're so done,
Yes.
and we're working on the release details, but it will be out later
Yeah.
this year, I
TBD.
imagine. TBD, TBA, really. Partially TBD and partially TBA. Hoping to TBA soon.
Well, I'm looking forward to that release. We're going to be playing a song later in the set today, so I'm excited to hear how that sounds via the airwaves. Spencer, so again, you joined the band just within the last year or so, right? A year or two?
About 2 years ago,
About 2 years ago. But you were familiar with the music and the label, so you sort of came into it as a fan, right?
Yeah, I came in as a fan, which was kind of nice because when I was learning the old bass parts, I already knew the songs really well. So it didn't take a whole lot of time to figure those out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's like why not be in a band that you like?
I mean, that's the dream.
It was really easy, and like we don't really practice that much honestly anymore. But like when Spencer was learning the parts and stuff, it was really easy.
Like, I know this.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just you go knock on his door, and then we go practice in the living room, and it was really easy. It was the chillest practices of my life.
That's great. When you wrote these songs from the first tape from 2014, were you and Andy still in Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
When this was all
so
happening?
the entire first incarnation of our band, it wasn't even. I didn't really have a plan, but yeah, we started this band like 6 months or so before Nathan and I moved up here, and then Tyler, who was originally playing bass, also moved up here shortly after. Yeah, so Andy and I just kind of randomly started playing together. We've known each other since like middle school or something.
Wow.
Like he's in my brother's grade, so I knew you guys like my little brother's like friend who likes ska. But then we got to know each other more like in like high school and stuff, and I knew Andy played drums, and we just kind of met up to play one day, and it was cool. So we were like, let's do this. And then, yeah, we kind of did. It was kind of a whirlwind. We only played like 5 shows with just me and him and Tyler. And yeah, we recorded these 5 songs on this tape, which was pretty much our entire set, plus a Jimmy Eat World cover. And yeah, we did that in our practice space and put it out like immediately. And then that was it. And then we moved. I already knew I was going to move. I moved that July. So it was kind of like, all right, see you later. And then I sort of paused on this for like 2 years before I hit him up again.
Yeah, so I'm definitely where that strong ska influence on the tape comes from that you're definitely hearing. But no, but yeah, that's exactly what happened. It worked out that, Indiana and everyone moved up here right around the time that I was starting grad school down in Santa Barbara too. So I really didn't do anything musically for a couple years while I was sort of getting my footing down there, and then Indiana just kind of hit me up with the songs that she'd been working on, and I was really into them and decided to make this weird long distance thing work. So
well, I was gonna say, like, you're a pretty busy guy too, because you teach at UCSB, right?
Yeah, so I'm a graduate student, so I've taught a couple of my own classes, but mostly work as a TA, so definitely do a lot of teaching, yeah.
And research too, correct?
And research, that is right.
Tell them what.
So I study sociology, particularly I study culture in the environment. Specifically, my PhD dissertation is about rat extermination projects, which is not something that you might expect a sociologist to study necessarily, but the best hook that I can give for my research is the province of Alberta in Canada is rat-free. It has been for 50 years, and I went up there to find out what was going on with that, among some other places.
Cool. Well,
Super
I mean,
punk.
Yeah, it's a pretty punk rock dissertation, I suppose.
well, I was just gonna say again, like the balance with like the travel is just really impressive. So kudos to you.
It is
And
impressive.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And to the
Thank you for
band.
coming.
Yeah. I guess what I wanted to lead into with again this last tape. So this last tape was written before the move, and you know now you've been in Corvallis for a little over 5 years now, right? Or more than that.
Oh no, God, no. No, it'll be 5 years this summer.
5 years this
Yeah.
summer. How has the environment informed your songwriting at all from Santa Barbara as opposed to living in Corvallis for almost 5 years now?
Wow.
Well, I am also interested in the answer to this question.
I didn't think about that. I didn't really think about anything before this interview.
That's okay.
Honestly, yeah, it definitely. I guess so. I guess it's just living in Corvallis has been a really. It's kind of like the before and after of my adult life, really. You know, of like before I moved here and after. I have complicated feelings about Corvallis at this point, but it's been one of the best things I did in my life at the time. I was not having a great time in Santa Barbara right before we moved, and for the few years before we moved, and I really felt like I needed to get out of there. I grew up there, and I think a lot of people who grew up there feel that way at some point.
Some of us just stick around forever.
Yeah, I thought I would. You know, I was 24 when I moved. Yeah, I think I don't know. You know, it's hard to say.
No, and that's
I'm sure
okay.
it has. I'm also just 5 years older now, and spent a lot of time. Honestly, in those 2 years in between, doing the first tape and then moving here, and then I kind of expected that maybe I'd find a drummer up here and then try to do it again, but I wasn't really looking. And then in between, I was playing in Dumb Luck, which is my other band, and so I was doing that, but not as the main songwriter, just playing guitar in that. So I think I had a lot of time to kind of just like sit, like be by myself and think about my feelings.
Yeah.
Which is something that you can think about too when you eventually listen to the record, because it's about my feelings.
Well, with this TBD record coming out, how long did it take you to write and form together?
Well, okay, so we definitely. It's weird because we started. I mean, there's one song on the record that we started playing before I moved. Like
it's kind of like the last thing that we did.
Yeah, it's Zelda. They don't know what that means, but you know what that means. So it's like we started work on that, and then I totally dropped that for like basically I didn't write anything for like a year and a half. I was just super over it. And then I kind of the first things we wrote. I know I wrote one actually right around the first Band in a Hat. I remember because I remember meeting you and talking to you about like stuff that had to do with, I don't know, just a weird brain connection I have. So like 2016, like spring of 2016 is when a lot of it started, and then wrote like half of it over the next year or so, and then we pretty much wrote the last half of it like in the last 6 months before we recorded, I think, and kind of like a mad scramble.
Some of it in the last like 3 days.
Yeah, we did finish writing one song like when Andy was here to record. Like we went to the practice space to like finish writing stuff. So yeah, I mean overall like really working on it. I feel like I was working on it for like almost 2 years, like writing stuff, and then I got really intense about it in the last like 6 months because I knew I wanted to have like a full length. Yeah. And I wanted to record like soon, you know.
What's the process like, writing those songs for a couple years and like having them to yourself, and then, all right, I have all these guitar parts, like what's the process like opening that up to people in your band, and then, adding the bass parts, adding the drum parts, like making it a more collaborative process? At what point do you know when to go for that?
It's weird. But yeah, I think so this one was weird because again, when we were writing the first tape, like, which we didn't even really think about, it just happened. But like, we just did that at practices, just like a normal band would, I think. Like we just were practicing and I would bring in a part and like, or like a partial song, and then we work on it. For this, I would write the whole song by myself and then record it on my phone or on GarageBand on my computer. And then mostly at the beginning, I would just send it to Andy, kind of for like positive reinforcement. And then he would kind of work on stuff in Santa Barbara. And then, and then eventually we'd show it to Spencer, and then
when I first joined the band, Indiana had 3 cell phone recordings of her and Andy playing 3 songs, and so I just listened to those on headphones and tried to write parts over the recordings. And then, like the first show I played, like when Andy first came to town, was the first time we played them all together.
Yeah. And there are some songs on the album that we have not really played together yet because we just didn't have time to. Yeah. So we kind of like pieced it together, and we will play them at some point. But yeah, we had to kind of like, it was a lot more like piecework, sort of like assembling parts, where I had to have an idea of what I wanted it to be, but we didn't have time to practice it.
Well, I think y'all sound really tight. Y'all just played Mudville Stadium last night with really Doe and Eureka, California, and that was such a great set. And y'all are also playing tonight in Salem at the Dance Hall at 7 o'clock with Ostrich Bear and Fear Dog. I'm really looking forward to that set. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that TBD record, I think it'd be a good time to debut a track off of the TBA album. Again, I'm here with a friend of my youth from Corvallis, Oregon / Santa Barbara, California, and we're here to play a single, potentially. Yeah. Wow. Here's the radio premiere of Dark Charizard from Friend of My Youth. If you're just tuning in, this is DJ Mothra. We're here talking with a friend of my youth from Corvallis, Oregon / Santa Barbara, California. That was their new track, Dark Charizard, off of the album that is to be named, to be determined, to be announced soon. Yeah, so that track was named Dark Charizard. First of all, that track rips. That is such a great song. I'm really looking forward to the album whenever that comes out. But the title of that's Dark Charizard. So, I mean, I know you personally, but I guess for our listeners, has your, you mentioned earlier that a track is named Zelda. Does that have a video game connotation as well?
That does not actually.
Oh.
I know, I'm sorry. No,
That's okay.
But it is dorky. That's Poltergeist related.
Zelda, okay.
The fantastic Zelda Rubinstein.
Gotcha.
They haven't heard that song, so I guess there's no reason to go into it.
That's okay.
It is not the game Zelda. I've never played that game.
But with Dark Charizard, that is almost definitely
absolutely
Pokemon related. Yeah. In years past, I know on, I don't know if it was your Bandcamp or your Facebook page, but it said, y'all have this relation with Pokemon / trivia.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So yeah. I guess maybe some little trivia tidbits for our listeners out there. What's your favorite Pokemon? Is it Dark Charizard?
No, it's not. You know what? The thing is, it's not. I'm not even a huge Charizard fan, but I just feel like Charizard is really cool. That's the
really
cool. That's the basic cool Pokemon. And then Dark Charizard, is that the same as Giovanni's Charizard? It's basically it's so cool.
It is.
And
so
I have
cool.
that card, and it was a really big deal. Dark Charizard is not my favorite Pokemon. Honestly, original 151, probably I think it was Vulpix when I was a kid. I think it might be Oddish or the whole Oddish line now. Yeah. I would have to say is really good. Overall, I can't say my favorite Pokemon type combination is Grass and Ghost.
Oh, so. Yeah. What about you, Spencer?
I love Magmar.
Magmar's dope.
So
Magmar's
cool.
tight.
His head is like a butt
It's
on
so
fire.
weird.
That's super weird, honestly. Sorry.
Magmar's great. I also like Scyther.
Yeah,
Scyther's tight. Scyther's tight.
Yeah.
Andy?
I like the psychic and ghost types for the most part. From I really had most of the connection with the 151 original first generation ones. Pre Pokemon Go at least.
Yeah.
So I like the Abra evolution and the Ghastly evolution. Those are two of my favorites.
Awesome. I do too. Bulbasaur and Gengar especially.
Sure.
Yeah.
What was your starter?
My start. Well, it depends.
Bulbasaur forever.
Yeah. Well, Bulbasaur forever for
Bulbasaur
sure.
forever.
It depends which game it
Pokemon
was.
number one.
When I had Red, I chose Charmander because I wanted Charizard in Red. But I restarted the game and picked Bulbasaur because I like Bulbasaur more.
Mm-hmm. Bulbasaur's the best.
Bulbasaur,
it's
he is literally number one. He is 001.
I mean, what you do is you play on your computer and then you can trade with yourself, so you get all of them.
Right? Oh,
what? Yeah. I feel like we just lost so many listeners in the last 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
No,
I do still have several Game Boys, several copies of Pokemon, and link cables. So
oh my god! So we should be
trading.
Going. Yeah, I mean Andy.
Yeah.
Well, so Andy and I play Pokemon Go, which I didn't actually mean to say on the radio until right now. But Andy just gave me all of his South America Pokemon because he went to South America for the rat thing.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, but I got so we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
South America, where at?
So the Galapagos Islands, actually.
Wow.
I made some brief stops on the South American continent, and particularly in Quito. But I was on the Galapagos for a little under 2 weeks, doing some of that research for my dissertation project down there. It was really cool.
That's
But
awesome.
the important thing is that he got that little coral-looking guy for me.
Yeah, there are 3
Traded
that you
Pokemon.
can only really get down there, and in addition to finding exotic actual species of animals, which was also cool, I got some pretty cool Pokemon while I was there.
That's awesome. So not only are you researching real animals, but you're getting Pokemon.
No, I mean, I chose that as a site for my research so that I could go and get the Pokemon. I mean,
That's great. Well, again, that last track was Dark Charizard, and again, I'm really looking forward to that album whenever it comes out.
Yeah, later this year sometime.
Yeah, what?
2019.
Are there any other tracks on the album that have, I guess, names inspired by nerdy things? I mean, I guess Zelda's Poltergeist, but
yeah. I see. I
Nerdy
mean,
adjacent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's how I interact with the world, honestly, is like being obsessive about specific cultural references. I don't know. I mean, honestly, let's just be real, because we're all thinking it. The first song on this album is called Soft Sci-Fi, which is my favorite song title I think I've ever had.
It's a really
That's a great song title.
Thank you very much. I feel very good about it.
So if the starting track of the album is Soft Sci-Fi, so science fiction is
Yes.
something you're really into.
Science fiction is something I'm really
Is
into.
it something you are all into? Science fiction?
Yes.
More or less. I think I am insecure about my sci-fi knowledge at this table. But
it's not
I used to
about-
like
it's not
sci-fi
about-
more.
Yeah, it's not about knowing the most about sci-fi. It's just, are you a fan?
It's about finding
Yeah.
the kind of sci-fi that you like.
Exactly.
Well, actually, while we were recording the drum tracks, we had various different sci-fi TV shows and movies playing on mute in the background, which was pretty cool.
yeah,
we
super
did-
pretentious.
It's inspirational.
But
I'd
it
say.
was cool. We
It was cool.
made it through like almost all of the Twilight Zone. It seemed like.
Yeah.
in, like,
We started
one
with
day.
2001, Space Odyssey
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. We did Arrival, which is
Yeah, that
great.
was
Such a
cool.
good movie.
That
Really
was
want to
really
recommend
cool.
Arrival. Also
Under the
coherence.
Skin?
We did do Under the Skin. Oh
movie's
god, that was a
weird.
weird week. Yeah. It is really weird. These are all weird movies. that
I mean,
like.
if we're talking about like the nerdy song titles, it might be pointed out that the first song that you played was named after a verb tense. So there's that too.
Oh.
It's true.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
It's true. The verb tense is in the song.
Yes, that's true.
Oh. That's really clever.
I don't know if it is, but thank you.
Oh man. Let's see here. So whenever that album does come out, I'm really looking forward to it. With Soft Sci-Fi, do you have any favorites in particular?
Ooh.
Science
Well,
fiction?
so let's not get into a conversation about soft versus hard sci-fi, which is like the stupidest conversation that you can have, honestly, in my
It's like a
opinion.
Sci-fi.
distinction that I was
Yeah.
not aware of before the song. So again,
well-
insecure about.
Well, because I think it's a funny thing that people say, honestly. Like a lot of men say it, a lot of like serious men who love science fiction like talk about like, oh, well, that's soft sci-fi. But anyway, let me tell you something. The book Inverted World by Christopher Priest is, I think, for sure my favorite science fiction book, and honestly, maybe my favorite book I've ever read in my life.
Wow.
At this point, I read it last year, and I got really obsessed with it.
What's it called again?
It's called Inverted World.
What's it about?
It's about like, okay, I'm trying to just like not give you that much information, but it's basically about a society that's happening. You don't really know a lot about the context of it, but it's a society that's basically, it's a city that's like a giant, I don't know, contraption the size of, big enough to hold a city, and it's moving along train tracks that that are constantly pulled up from behind them and then laid out in front of them, and they have to keep moving. Basically, like time. There's kind of a conflation of time and space. This is horrible.
No, this is great.
It's really good. It's parts of it. I don't know. It actually made me think a lot about that distinction about hard and soft sci-fi, which is something that like had kind of bothered me before, and like. I don't know. I don't really know how to talk about it. I'm just thinking about it now. It's a really good book. And then so I read it and got really obsessed with it like maybe a year or two ago, actually. And I was still obsessed with it when I went to the dentist at one point, and I started telling my dentist about it because he wanted to talk about science fiction. And he recommended me this other book called Dragon's Egg, which has some similar themes, which is also really good. And that is probably the hardest sci-fi I've ever read. It's pretty much a lot of math, like so much math, but it's really good. And I recommend that as well. I can't remember if there's a question, but I really like both of those books.
You got a hard sci-fi recommendation from your dentist. I think that's amazing.
I did, and it was really good. And actually, here's the thing. He described the book to me, but he was like, well, that kind of reminds me of this book I read in college. And he started describing it to me, and it sounded really cool, but he couldn't remember what it was called. So then I had to go back for like a follow-up thing. So I like immediately Googled what that book was, and I found it, and I came back and I was like, was it Dragon's Egg by Robert Forward? And he was like, oh my God, it is that book. And then he said he was going to read it again too. So I could have had a book club with my dentist.
Well, next time you go in,
My
you're gonna have to
insurance
talk
doesn't
about it.
cover him anymore. It's a whole thing.
Bummer.
So I can't. I'll never see him again.
Do either of you have any favorite sci-fi novels?
It's hard to pick favorites, but I'm currently reading The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, and let me tell you, I love it. I really liked Ray Bradbury as a kid, and I read a few things, and I feel like I tried reading The Martian Chronicles a few times, but just like wasn't in the right headspace, didn't click. But the other day, I was listening to the song "The Martian Chronicles" by the band Tadaima. So Bob, if you're listening, it's great. I love it.
It's a good band.
And so that song just makes me feel great. And I was like, what if I read The Martian Chronicles and it made me feel the same way that this song makes me feel? So then I got up and I walked to the bookstore and I bought a copy of The Martian Chronicles, and it's making me feel the same way that the song makes me
That's
feel.
great.
It's so it's very soft sci-fi in the sense that like it takes place on Mars and there's like rocket ships and stuff, but there's nothing technical about it. It's really just like Ray Bradbury's sweet, nostalgic stuff, but in space.
Well,
so,
if I remember correctly, you met Ray Bradbury, right?
I did meet Ray Bradbury.
I saw pictures of that yesterday.
I
Yeah.
forgot that happened.
And you have stuff signed by him, correct?
I have 2 signed books by Ray Bradbury. I met him in 2009 at the Barnes & Noble in Thousand Oaks, California.
There is photographic evidence of maybe the most awkward handshake in human history.
I'm basically holding Ray Bradbury's hand. If you're friends with me on Facebook, it's on there. You can find it. Go for it. But yeah, that was really cool. There was a really long line, and I was supposed to have a wristband to be like closer up in the line, but I did not have that wristband, and I totally cut the line without realizing it. But I didn't have to wait in line.
But you met Ray Bradbury.
I did.
Worth it.
So when you're reading The Martian Chronicles, do you just like, you're reading it, it's like, oh man, this is really good. I met that guy.
I just put my hand out like I'm holding Ray Bradbury's hand again.
He's got
Feel
like
a
a little
special
mannequin hand
affinity.
that he holds to pretend that it's Ray.
Charmed.
First name basis.
Yeah.
Andy, do you have any favorites?
So I feel like I've talked to maybe all of you about this before, but one of the things about being a grad student in a very like reading heavy discipline is like I feel like I've gotten to read so little fiction the last several years, and that's pretty much self-inflicted because like I have time to binge watch tons of TV shows and like do that. But for some reason, like sitting down and reading a novel just feels too close to like the work that I'm actually supposed to be doing. But one of my favorites, when, you know, back in high school, I was really into Kurt Vonnegut, and my favorite Kurt Vonnegut novel is The Sirens of Titan, which I'm pretty sure definitely qualifies as soft sci-fi, but
That's
yes.
fine. There's no but. That's the thing. It's not lesser.
It's greater.
It's perhaps. I want to say one more thing, and that's, I think I already mentioned it, but the movie Coherence is my favorite sci-fi movie I've seen in the last year, probably. I don't know, maybe we can watch it tonight. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sorry you still haven't seen it, Andy. It's really good.
Is that the one you were telling me?
We were talking about last night. It's really, really good. I recommend it to everyone. I actually probably wrote that song kind of after seeing that movie.
That's cool.
Not like, I'm not saying anything, but you know, I don't know.
If you want like a 1-sentence pitch on Coherence, it's low budget, soft sci-fi dinner party movie. And if that doesn't sell you on it, I don't
With the Buffy guy.
know who you
What's
are.
his name? Xander?
Yes.
From Buffy.
I've never watched Buffy, but that sounds right.
Yeah, okay. Has anyone watched Buffy who's here in this band? No. Okay, we're not a Buffy band.
Is Coherence soft sci-fi or hard sci-fi?
I mean, soft in that, like, there's not, I mean,
maybe at this point we should just like
we should probably
clear
not.
the air on
like,
the distinction.
Why don't we should make, okay, you know,
We're
like,
just talking
you know,
about
like,
it
is this
enough.
band emo.com or whatever? Like, we should have a friend of my youth run, is this sci-fi soft?
Yeah. Okay.
And the answer every time will be like a giant paragraph
You know, it's a spectrum.
about
so.
why it doesn't matter. And that's why you should read Inverted World, because honestly, it made me think about that. I don't even know if that was his intention, but I don't know. It's just like, I shouldn't talk about it anymore.
Regardless of whether, you know, the sci-fi is hard or soft, all of you are fans of literature, obviously.
Yes.
And the band itself, Friend of My Youth, is named after a collection of short stories by Alice Munro of the same name, Friend of My
Yes,
Youth.
you've done your research.
Yes. I haven't read the book, though, but I guess...
Not enough research.
I also haven't read the story Friend of My Youth.
I read the
It's
story.
like
It's very
20
good.
pages, y'all.
I've been meaning to.
You don't have
Yeah.
to, but it's,
Well, it's one story within the collection, right?
yes. Yeah.
I guess, so I would imagine you're a fan of Alice Munro.
I
or
am a
that,
huge fan
that
of Alice
book?
Munro. She's my favorite writer.
Really?
I think, yeah. I mean, I don't.
You
I'm
named
not
the
really
band
good-
after.
I did name the band after, and we decided we were between a couple things, and we decided on that. It happened to be the day that she won the Nobel Prize. And
It was meant to
Wow.
be.
yeah, it was meant to be. It was already going to happen, but that was like the confirmation that like we had done the correct thing cosmically.
Yeah. Well, that's hard sci-fi. Right
We
there.
found out about the Nobel Prize after we had made the decision.
Yeah,
right?
I came home
cool.
from band practice and then I got like a notification probably because I'm like hooked into her.
Google alert or something.
Yeah.
When were you introduced to that collection?
Well, okay, so I actually don't even know. Oh, I think I own the collection, but I have read a lot of her stories just in different collections because she has so many because they came out originally and then they've all been recombined or whatever. But I read Alice Munro for the first time in college in John Wilson's class. He's a really good teacher. I think he was retired now. But he did a class, and I went to UCSB, so that's to set the scene. I don't know why that information was necessary, but yeah, in like a short stories class. I don't even remember actually, but yeah, and I was aware of her as a writer, but honestly, I don't know. It's kind of a design crime, I think, that whoever was in charge of doing whatever the most popular, I don't know, vintage press, whatever, editions of her books makes them look like super chick lit. Like, I just didn't think they're like white covers with like, I don't know, like someone's like painted toenails on a beach or something. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I saw those covers for years and never thought I'd be into it. I had no idea. I thought Alice Munro was like a Danielle Steele. I don't know. It's really terrible, but I just assumed. And then we had like a collection of hers that was assigned, and I read the couple stories that were assigned, and then I was obsessed with it, and I read the entire book, and then I bought like 10 more books, and I don't know when exactly I read the story Friend of My Youth, but somewhere in there. She's so good.
It's really good.
She's just I admire her so much. She's my favorite writer. Yeah, I'm confirming that she's my favorite writer. I actually got like a Facebook reminder from like 2011 that was like just me talking to no one on the internet about how I liked Alice Munro, and no one cared and no one liked it. But yeah,
Well, that's great. Well,
really good.
that's fantastic that you chose the name based off of your favorite story. But if I recall correctly, there was another. You attempted to get your Instagram handle to be Friend of My Youth,
Yes.
but things didn't go as planned. Could you enlighten us?
Yes. Okay. So we weren't on the internet at all until like 2 months ago or something, and then I was like, all right, we're gonna have a record. We should probably be on the internet in some way. And I hate Facebook, so I made an Instagram. And yeah, I was like, I just wanted it to be Friend of My Youth. It's already a long name. I didn't want to be like Friend of My Youth, the band. But then it's like there's already a person. There's like a woman in Mexico who already had that name. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I went and looked at her stuff a little more, and she seemed like a cool person. And then I could tell that she was like an Alice Munro fan. The odds are very low that she's listening to this, but I don't know. But,
Well, it's recorded, so you can send it to
yeah,
her.
I guess so. Yeah, and then so I don't know, sometimes I just feel really friendly on the internet. So I didn't really care that much, but I just like messaged her and I was like, hey, this is weird, but I'm in a band called Friend of My Youth. I was just wondering, like, is this just like a random handle for you? Like, can I have it? Or like, do you care? And I was like, it's totally cool if you care about this, but like, I just wanted to reach out because like, who are you? This like younger person that really likes Alice Munro this much, like me. And then yeah, she responded to me, and then we had a whole conversation. So she is, I don't really remember. I think she's a grad student in Mexico City, I think, and she's doing her entire thesis on the story Friend of My Youth. And on like concepts of like memory and like trauma, and basically it was just really relevant to my life. And yeah, and we had a whole really nice like kind of long conversation about it, and like we talked about like, and she was like, well, what's up with your band? And I was like, well, I also am obsessed with Alice Munro and Friend of My Youth and everything. And then she thought that was cool, and we talked about her thesis a little bit and had like a whole back and forth for like that day that we were talking. And then and she said like, no, I want to hold on to this handle. And I was like, that's totally fine. Which now, I mean, so it's actually worked out great because I actually prefer our handle, which is the same. It's just X Friend of My Youth X, which shows that I'm straight edge, which is very important to me. So I'm actually good with that. So I don't feel the need to try to like steal it from her or anything. But she was really cool. I don't actually know her name. I don't remember it, but she was really nice. And someone out there is writing a thesis on the story that our band is named after. And maybe it'll come out at the same time as the album, and we can do like a split, like a shared release.
Well, even though you don't remember her name, she's at Friend of My Youth on Instagram. So.
Yes. Are we allowed to do this?
I guess.
This is like doxing. But yes. No. And so if you want her, go to that. Don't bother her. And if you want us, it's just the same thing, but with X's around it.
It's quality content, I assure you.
Yes.
It's great. I guess let's dial back here as we wrap up the hour. So again, earlier I mentioned, I don't remember if it was like a Facebook page or Bandcamp, but you said you were fans of Pokémon and trivia.
Yes.
On the trivia, and Andy, you run a trivia night every week in Santa Barbara.
That is true, I do.
How is that? What
it's
do you
good.
do?
I have just wound up like cobbling together a bunch of side jobs that in the last couple of years, which has been cool. I get like $100 a pop every week for that, so it's good for that. But I mostly do it just because I really like. I've been going to trivia nights. My friend Tim runs one on Wednesdays that I've been going to for like 6 or 7 years at this point. So I had the opportunity to do that. It's also just a really good writing exercise. It's a very different kind of writing than I normally do in my everyday life, but just have to write 40 questions a week, and it's an exercise in being clear and knowing what details to include and not to include. So I feel like that's helped me in other areas too. Yeah.
We kind of started as like a trivia band, honestly. That was like kind of how we started hanging out again, I think, because we didn't really see each other that much. We were just around in Santa Barbara.
We started playing music, and then
and then like Andy invited me to the trivia that he went to at Old Kings Road, or whatever, in Santa Barbara, and then Tyler got really into it, and then Tyler was our
music guy.
Yeah, so we would so we would go and we would go to practice and then go to trivia like every week. It was a huge thing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And then Spencer is independently a trivia person.
I do love trivia. In case anyone doesn't know, there's a whole bunch of Jeopardy on Netflix and Hulu.
So Jeopardy's great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I guess if anybody's listening in Santa Barbara, Tuesday nights at 7 at Figueroa Mountain Brewery. So
it's really good. I went one time. Spencer went a different time. We went separately. It was very good.
Yes.
We're like, all of us are like really smart, is what I'm trying to say. We're like so intelligent.
So smart.
We're like pretty smart.
Above average.
Oh man.
God.
Well, I love trivia as well. I've gone to trivia with Spencer, and that's been fun. I
do go to trivia with you, Donald.
Yes, that is so much fun. And I love the questions that you write, Andy. And
thank you.
One of my goals before I inevitably pass on this earth is to go to one of your trivia nights. If I'm ever in Santa Barbara, Tuesday nights.
We can make it happen.
Yeah, I think you might like.
What are you doing on Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, I think the window for achieving that might be a lot shorter than just like the rest of your life, unfortunately. Like, I mean, I'm going to do it as long as I can, but like, yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, again, you're listening to KBVR Corvallis. I'm DJ Mothra. I'm here with friend of my youth. Thank you so much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I've had a really, really fun conversation with y'all. Is there anything else you'd like to plug before we sign off with the last song here?
Everyone's looking at me, which is the obvious. I don't know. We're a band. I would like to plug Donald as like a really great DJ and I don't know. I'm really happy for you and your career, and I think you're gonna do great this summer at your internship and for the rest of your life. And okay, well, unrelated to this band, as far as you know, Sinking City Pop Fest is happening May 11th and 12th, and I just got a message about it that we'll talk about later, Caitlin. That's a cool thing that we do here, and it will be fun. I would like to plug the concept of going to shows, honestly. Like, I think, and it was really cool. Honestly, I saw like almost 100% new faces last night. I had no idea who anyone was, so it was really cool. But yeah, there's like a lot of cool shows that happen in Corvallis. Don't be misled by people who say there's nothing to do here. There are a few things to do here. And if you don't like punk and indie kind of stuff, there's other stuff too. I don't really know about it because I only like punk. That's the only thing I like in life. But like, you should definitely go to shows if you like music. I don't know, because it makes it. I don't know. Nothing else matters. So, go to shows. There's several shows. You can go to the Corvallis DIY calendar if you're interested in finding out about that. Also, we're playing in Salem tonight, and also I'm playing in Eugene next month. I can't remember what day. Do you guys want to plug anything? Sorry, I talked a lot.
I don't think I have anything to plug.
Great.
I recently, if my grandpa's listening, hey Grandpa John, I finished reading The Boys in the Boat, and it was really good. So in case anyone wants to read about the 1936 Olympic rowing crew, I didn't think I'd like it, but I loved it.
I will read it after I read that novel by Christopher Priest.
Maybe sometime I'll have a book out of my dissertation. I'll come back here and I'll plug that next time.
Okay, cool.
We will release that as our second LP.
Yeah. There you go.
Right.
Awesome. Again, I've been here with Friend of My Youth. They've been wonderful guests here on the show. I think I'm going to close with the song Russtanding off of that last tape. So,
Right.
yeah, again, Friend of My Youth are playing in Salem tonight with Postrich Bear and Fear Dog at the Dance Hall in Salem. There's a Facebook event about it. You can look it up. I believe in you. Yeah, here's Russtanding off of that self-titled tape. Yeah, until next time, I've been DJ Munro. Have a good one.
But you're on your own, that was way too long ago. And we got old, we aged, we've grown. For heaps of clothes, a guy might never know. New year, new me. Bizarre early mid-20s. It's just spit and smoke, it's an inside joke. I wouldn't know where to start if I wanted to. That's one thing I won't do. Just be grateful for how things worked out. They worked out for you. And when you think of don't regret the things you couldn't change. I don't suppose you have anyway.
This is Greg Hughes of Bobby's Ore, and you're listening to 88.7 FM KBVR Corvallis.